So ideally, what we saw in the last class is a section where from sloka number 11 to 14 we saw, where importantly somebody who has to somebody who's trying to get that real knowledge, somebody who's trying to have that supreme personality of Godhead understanding should understand both what is ignorance, avidya, and vidya. So side by side, and then they will be able to, once they get to know what is the real knowledge, then they will be able to come out of this material world. Okay. So that question we saw. And then very importantly, 12, 13, focusing on Devata worship, like what is the implications of working the Devatas. And Isopanishad recommends that we should never, if somebody wants to get into a real solution of coming out of this Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, then they should not worship the Devatas, but they should worship the Supreme Lord, and more worse is the worshipping the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. So very clearly, sloka number 12 gives that understanding that Devata worship will take us to a certain degree, certain level, and worshipping the impersonal Brahman or the effulgence portion also is to an extent only, but beyond that is the Parampurusha Bhagavan portion. Okay? So whatever result obtained by worshipping the supreme cause of all causes, and that of another result is obtained by worshipping what is not supreme. So that is why we need to be very careful of whom we are trying to worship. So we are in the last part of the Isopanishad where that particular Jivatma has got the real understanding, real knowledge, and it will he'll supposed to offer his prayers. Okay, so that is what the conclusion portion of the Isopanishad. So Isopanishad starts with what is the most important point is about Ishavasham idam sarvam jagat Ishavasham idat sarvam. So everything belongs to the Isha or the Supreme Lord, and he is the Param controller, and we are all just utilizing. So from there it starts, and invocation is all about understand the completeness. Then what happens? It focuses on controlling the senses, then focusing on understanding that Para Brahman, the Supreme Personality of God, its features, and focusing on identifying himself, who we are, and then identifying themselves as we are not the body, we are Atmas, and everybody are equal. So slowly the journey starts in the third and fourth slokas, and then finally between 7th to 8th it starts focusing on the jnana. So focusing, typically the flow is understanding who you are, understanding everybody are equal, understanding Supreme Lord has got a separate feature apart from the impersonal feature, then getting to know about the real knowledge. So when we get to know about the real knowledge, we should not understand what is meant by ignorance and what is actual knowledge. In the actual knowledge, what is more important is about worshipping the Lord. So once you get the knowledge, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to worship the Lord. Which Lord we are supposed to worship, that also has to be made very clear. That is why in the next section, it is all talking about worshipping the Supreme Bhagavan is more better than worshipping the Devatas or worshipping the impersonal Absolute. Okay, so that portion we have seen. And what are the implications of worshipping the Devatas and the Absolute, because that is still Anda Tamasa. So the word Anda Tamasa is used in 2-3 slokas, which means Anda means ignorance or darkness, and Tamasa is also kind of in the Tamo Guna stage or Tamasa stage. So it is more of getting into that stage only. So somebody has to gain knowledge, understand and differentiate between what is real knowledge and essence, and then take it forward. So that is how it goes. And finally, the conclusion is to offer prayers to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. So even in Bhagavad Gita also, if you see from the 2nd chapter, understanding self, getting the self-realization, performing activities, karma, getting the real knowledge through tapasya, through jnana, through austerities and penance, and then understanding the Supreme Lord. In 7th and 8th chapters, attaining the Supreme, attaining the Brahman, understanding him, and finally finally doing the devotion service. Okay, so that is how Bhagavad Gita is also written. The same thing in a way where within this 18 slokas, Isopanishad also is driving that point that somebody has to do a complete surrender unto the personality of God and perform devotion service. So we are in the last section of Isopanishad, starting from 15th sloka. It is all talking about how that particular Jivatma will pray or will offer his obeisances to the Lord. Okay. So this is how again how we can compare is how Arjuna, when he sees the Vishwarupa, or when he asks for darshan of the Lord, what does that he see, and then what does he realize, and what kind of prayers Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram. So the same way, this particular section is also about offering prayers to the Supreme Personality of God. Okay, so clear? So just somebody who has not joined last two classes will get an understanding. So this is how the sections are being divided. Okay. So today we'll get into sloka number 15, 16, 17, 18. So as usual, we'll just run through the purport and then get an understanding. So this Hiranmayena Patrena as I mentioned in the last class, is about how when the yogis, when they realize the feature of sitting inside the Paramatma feature sitting inside the body, they realize and they offer this prayer. Generally, great Ashtanga yogis will use this particular this loka, like when they do Surya Namaskar, when they do any kind of a bigger yoga, this one, they always use this particular sloka. Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasaha Spitam Mukam. Okay. Somebody will say Satya Dharmayena Paraha, but same thing in a different way. Okay. So let's get started. 15th sloka. Can somebody
Yes,
read?
Prabhu.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shloka, should I read that one also, Prabhu?
Try, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes. Hirenmayena patrena satyasya pitha satyasya pihitam mukham tatvam tatvam pushna apavarno satyadharmaya drashtraye. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 14.27, the Lord explains his personal rays, Brahma Jyotir, the dazzling effulgence of his personal form, in this way. Brahmano hi pratisthaham अमृतस्य यस्य च शाश्वतस्य च धर्मस्य सुखस्य कान्तिक्षय च. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan are three aspects of the same absolute truth. Brahman is the aspect most easily perceived by the beginner. Paramatma, the super soul, is realized by those who have further progressed, and Bhagwan realization is the ultimate realization of the absolute truth. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.7, where Lord Krishna says that he is the ultimate concept of absolute truth. Mahat Mahat Parat Mahat Parataram Nanyet.
Matta
Therefore,
Parataram Yamnit.
Matta, yes, Matta Paratare Nanyet. Therefore, Krishna is the source of the Brahma Jyoti, as well as all pervading Paramatma. Later in the Bhagavad Gita 10.42, Krishna further explains Athava Bahune Bahunetena Kim Jnatena to Arjuna Vishtabhyam Tasyaabhyaham idam Krishnam eka ekam seva sthito jagat. But what need is there, Arjun, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. Thus, by his own planetary explanation, the all-pervading Paramatma, the Lord, maintains the complete material cosmic creation. He also maintains all manifestations in the spiritual world. Therefore, in the Shruti mantra of Isopanishad, the Lord is addressed as Pushan, the ultimate maintainer. The personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is always filled with transcendental bliss. Anandamayo bha, Anandamayo bhayasat. When he was present at Vrindavan in India 5,000 years ago, he always remained in transcendental bliss. Even from the beginning of his childhood pastimes, the killings of various demons, such as Agha, Baka, Putna, and Pralamba, were but pleasure excursions for him. In his village of Vrindavan, he enjoyed himself with his mother, brother, friends, and when he played the role of naughty butter thief, all his associates enjoyed celestial bliss by his stealing. The Lord's fame as a butter thief is not reproachable, for by stealing butter, the Lord gave pleasure to his pure devotees. Everything the Lord did in Vrindavan was for the pleasure of his associate there. The Lord created these pastimes to attract the dry speculators and the acrobats of the so-called Hatha Yoga system who wish to find the absolute truth.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So this section is where very clearly the prayer Hiranmayena Patrena Shastasapidam Mukam. Okay, Tatvam Bhushan Apavarnu Satya Dharmaya Drishyate. Drishyate means for seeing or viewing. So this particular like similar to Arjuna, like this particular person is trying to see or trying to have the darshan of the Supreme Lord, where he is able to only see the effulgence or the Brahma Jyoti portion of it. Okay, so he's he's making it, a pushan, or pushanam means nourishment, right? So one who gives that nourishment, pushan or poshan or poshak, they say poshak or some way. So poshak or poshak, whatever be it. So who is giving that the nourishment is called the pushan portion or a sustainer, or somebody give that. Okay, so what is it? Apavirnu satya dharmaya drishyate. So to whom it can be seen? Only to Satya Dharmaya. Satya Dharma means somebody who is very truthful, one who follows the religion's principles, one who is a devotee, one who has completely surrendered, one who understands all the sections, all the real knowledge, one who is completely removed from the avidya portion. So that particular portion will be able to see what? Hiranmayena Patrena Satya Dharma. So Satyasya Apahitam. So Apihitam means it is covered. Okay. Apa. So means covered. So Mukam. So very specifically focusing on having the darshan portion. Okay. Mukam Tatvam Pushanam. So Tvam means yourself. So which means please, I want to have your darshan. Okay. So Prabhupada bringing about again Bhagavad Gita is very importantly portion. Okay. Amritasya avasasya Sashvatasya dharmasya Sukhanesya Kanti. Sukhanesya Kantikasya. Kanti means the effulgence. Kanti means, the effulgence that is coming out of that particular. Okay, so Brahmanohi Pradishtaham. So I am the personal Pradishtaham means I am there. I am present as the Brahman, and I am also the supreme personality, which means he is establishing that at some point of time one should have that realization of the Brahman, the Paramatma, and the Bhagavan. Okay. So this is the nice portion, and then this also in 1022. Okay, Kinyatpena Tavarjuna Vishya Istabhyaham. It means in full expansion or full expansion. Okay, Vistabhya means expansion. Okay, Idam Krishnam Eka Amsena. Eka Amsena means one Amsa. Sthito Jagat. So it's again very nicely mentioned. Okay? So Prabhupada is talking about the personality of Godhead. This is again defining who is that personality of Godhead. So personality of Godhead is always Sachidananda, Anandamayo Abhyasa. So he is always at the transcendental stage, even though he is performing various kinds of small activities, this activity, that activity. All the family members, this Agatsur, Bakasur, Putana are all brother and sisters. So this entire family, this one, everything is, even the killing of the demons is kind of very nice pastime. So even though he is a butter thief, whatever be it, it is still giving pleasure, that portion. So the main question is the Lord created these pastimes to attract the dry speculators and acrobats, calling them as acrobats of Hatha Yoga, which means they will they are trying to find the absolute truth, but still they are only at that stage where they wanted to they are restricted to have not a complete Anandamaya portion. So they will have little happiness, but not the full complete bliss. Okay, so that is where the Hatha yogis or the yogis who perform various kinds of yoga are restricted at that particular Brahman stage. Okay, somebody else.
From
Hare
of the
Krishna.
childhood, right?
Yeah, yes.
Of the childhood play between the Lord and his playmates, the cowherd boys, Shukdev Goswami says in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.12.11, it, it, itam satam Itam satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradevatena maya srinanam naradarakena shak sakam vijaru krita punya punjaha. The personality of Godhead, who is perceived as the impersonal, blissful Brahman by the Jnanis, who is worshipped as the supreme Lord by devotees in the mood of servitorship, and who is considered an ordinary human being by mundane people, played with the cowherd boys who had attained that position after accumulating many pious activities. Thus, the Lord is always engaged in transcendental loving activities with his spiritual associates in the various relationships of Shanta, neutrality, Dasya, servitorship, Sakhya, friendship, Vatsalya, parental affection, and Madhurya, conjugal love. Since it is said that Lord Krishna never leaves Vrindavan Dham, one may ask how he manages the affairs of the creation. This is answered in the Bhagavad Gita 13.14 to 18. The Lord pervades the entire material creation by his plenary part known as Paramatma or Super Soul. Although the Lord personally has nothing to do with the material creation, maintenance, and destruction, he causes all these things to be done by his plenary expansion, the Paramatma. Every living entity is known as Atma, soul. The principal Atma who controls them all is Paramatma, the Super Soul. This system of God realization is a great science. The materialistic Sankhya yogis can only analyze and meditate on the 24 factors of the material creation, for they have very little information of the Purusha, the Lord. And the impersonal transcendentalists are simply bewildered by the glaring effulgence of the Brahma Jyotir. If one wants to see the absolute truth in full, one has to penetrate beyond the 24 material elements and the glaring effulgence as well. Sri Isopanishad points towards this direction, praying for the removal of the Hiranmaya Patra, the dazzling covering of the Lord. Unless this covering is removed, so one can perceive the real face of the personality of Godhead, factual realization of the absolute truth can never be achieved.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. Okay, so let's continue. So focusing on the God realization or the Bhagavan realization portion. So if somebody wants to really get into that, he has got a lot of wonderful relationships by which we are able to get that Bhagavan realization. He exhibited thus in the Vrindavan Pashram. So itam satam Brahma Sukhanubhutya. So Brahma Sukhanubhutya means somebody who's at the Brahman realization, say they will be just jnanis. The so-called jnanis and yogis, they will be just at the Brahma Buddha stage. Brahma Buddha stage means they will be able to realize that Brahman realization, that's all. But they will never be getting into Dasyam, Gatanam, Paradaivetena, Maya Srishtam. So next one, all those things they will never be able to understand. Okay, so only if they become the devotees of the Supreme Lord as a person with the mood of servitorship, with the mood of that particular thing, then they will be able to get the other the blissful portion of it. Okay, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Next.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, question.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, like this three stages we talk about God realized, right? From the impersonal Brahma Jyoti to to the Paramatma and then to the Bhagavan. So I think the comparison typically is given as the sunshine, the sun planet itself, and then the sun god.
Mm.
So
Correct.
how do we comprehend the second level in terms of because when the effulgence will be removed, then we are able to see the sun planet, right?
No. What is most important is the Brahman realization. It is only at the realization of not actually seeing the circumference or the actual sun's one. It will be only at the effulgence stage. Okay. First stage you can understand, but second stage is like kind of partial between the actual one and then this one. What is the difference between first and the second and the third is? Second is little bit okay, at least compared to first this one, but second one is where it is kind of intermediary position. They are actually mixed up whether that there is really a particular object or I'm just getting something happening. So that is why the intermediate portion is very dangerous, because from second to third, it really requires a relationship. It really requires a position in which they understand there is a particular shape, a particular form, particular leela. All those things can be really identified and established. So from second to third, it requires a little more understanding to establish that relationship. Okay, so that is where even though the effulgence portion is kind of this one, they will never be able to see the full from a from an analogy perspective. They will not be able to see the sun's full circle, or they will not be able to see that. They'll just see only that the more of the effulgence, the Hiranmaya portion of it. So they will never be able to see there is a circumference. They will never be able to, if you see the analogy perspective, they will never be able to see that, oh, there's a separate planet. He is continuously traveling from Uttarayanam to Dakshinayam. He has a lot of horses in the front. He is sitting there. So all those aspects, if you see from an analogy perspective. Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Should I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, good.
The Paramatma feature of the personality of Godhead is one of the three plenary expansions of Vishnu Tattvas, collectively known as the Purusha Avtaras. One of these Vishnu Tattvas, who is within the universe, is known as Kshirodakshai Vishnu. He is the Vishnu among the three principal deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And he is the all-pervading Paramatma in each and every individual living entity. The second Vishnu Tattva within the universe is Garbhodakshai Vishnu, the collective super soul of all living entities. Beyond these two is Karanodakshai Vishnu, who lies in the causal ocean. He is the creator of all universes. The yoga system teaches the serious student to meet the Vishnu Tattvas after going beyond the 24 material elements of the cosmic creation. The culture of empiric philosophy helps one realize the impersonal Brahma Jyotir, which is the glaring effulgence of the transcendental body of Lord Shri Krishna. That the Brahma Jyotir is Krishna's effulgence is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14.27 as well as the Brahma Samhita 5.40. Yasya Prabha यस्या प्रभवा प्रभवतो जगत अंडकोटि कोटिश्वाशेष वसुधादिविभूति भिन्नं तद् ब्रह्म निशिकलम् अनन्तमशेष भूतं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. In the millions and billions of universes, there are innumerable planets, and each and every one of them is different from the others by its cosmic constitution. All of these planets are situated in a corner of the Brahma Jyotir. This Brahma Jyotir is but the personal rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, whom I worship. This mantra from the Brahma Samhita is spoken from the platform of factual realization of the absolute truth. And the Shruti mantra of Sri Isopanishad under discussion confirms this mantra as a process of realization. The Isopanishad mantra is a simple prayer to the Lord to remove the Brahma Jyotir so that one can see his real face. This Brahma Jyotir effulgence is described in detail in several mantras of the Mundaka Upanishad 2.10 to 12. हिरण्मये परे कोशे विरजं ब्रह्म निशिकलम् तच्छ्रु ब्रह्म ज्योतिषं ज्योतिष तद् यद् आत्म विदो विदु न तत् सूर्यो भाति न चंद्र तारकं नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतो अयम् अग्निः तम एव भान्तम् अनुभाति सर्वं तस्य भास सर्वम् इदं विभाति ब्रह्मेद Brahmeva Vedam Amritam Purastad Brahma Paschad Brahma Dakshinatasha Kotarena Adash Adashchodavam Chapashritam Brahmamai Vedam Vishvam Idam Varishtham. In the spiritual realm, beyond the material covering is the unlimited Brahma effulgence, which is free from material contamination. That effulgent white light is understood by transcendentalists to be the light of all lights. In that realm, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity for illumination. Indeed, whatever illumination appears in the material world is only a reflection of that supreme illumination. That Brahma is in front and in the back, in the north, south, east, and west, and also overhead and below. In other words, that supreme Brahma effulgence spreads throughout both the material and spiritual skies. Perfect knowledge means knowing Krishna as the root of this Brahma effulgence. This knowledge can be gained from such scriptures as Srimad Bhagavatam, which perfectly elaborates the science of Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the author Srila Vyasadeva has established that one will describe the supreme truth as Brahma, Paramatma, or Bhagavan, according to one's realization of him. Srila Vyasadeva never states that the supreme truth is a jiva, an ordinary living entity. The living entity should never be considered the all-powerful supreme truth. If he were the supreme, he would not need to pray to the Lord to remove his dazzling cover so that the living entity could see his real face. The conclusion is that one who has no knowledge of the potencies of the supreme truth will realize the impersonal Brahma. Similarly, when one realizes the material potencies of the Lord but has little or no information of the spiritual potencies, he attains Paramatma realization. Thus, both Brahma and Paramatma realization of the absolute truth are partial realizations. However, when one realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, in full potency after the removal of the Hiranmaya Patra, one realizes Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. Lord Sri Krishna, who is known as Vasudeva, is everything. Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He is Bhagavan, the root, and Brahma and Paramatma are his branches. In the Bhagavad Gita 6.46 to 47, there is a comparative analysis of the three types of transcendentalists: the worshippers of the impersonal Brahma, the Jnanis, the worshippers of the Paramatma feature, the yogis, and the devotees of Lord Shri Krishna, the bhaktas. It is stated here that the Jnanis, those who have cultivated Vedic knowledge, are better than ordinary fruity workers, and the yogis are still greater than the Jnanis, and that among all yogis, those who constantly serve the Lord with all their energies are the topmost. In summary, a philosopher is better than a laboring man. A mystic is superior to a philosopher, and of all the mystic yogis, he who follows Bhakti Yoga, constantly engaging in the service of the Lord, is the highest. Sri Isopanishad directs us towards this perfection.
Thank you, bro. It's very clear. The conclusion part of this particular last para, making it very clear why we worship the Paramatma, I mean, beyond the Paramatma, the Bhagavan realization portion. Nice point. So one point again, underlining point why Prabhupada chose to translate or chose to give commentary for Isopanishad, we have to understand. So this is the only Shruti mantra, Shruti. This one that Prabhupada chose because all the others, for example, Bhagavatam and other things are more from a Smriti mantra perspective. Or Smriti mantra means collection from a Smriti perspective or a memorization. This is among all the Upanishads and Vedas. He chose Isopanishad because he wanted to emphasize one point that even in the Shruti mantra, even in the category of Shruti, all the Vedic literature, the goal or the primary aim of that particular Jivatma is towards Bhagavan realization. Okay, so that is why he took Isopanishad and translated or given the commentary. So we need to understand why Prabhupada took, somebody is asking of all the Upanishads, why Prabhupada took, because he wanted, it's a short one, number one. Number two, any Upanishad that you take, even the so-called Upanishads and everything, focus is only on the Bhagavan realization portion. That is why he took from a Shruti perspective, he took this particular. So we have, in the first initial introduction, we saw how Vedas is divided into Shruti Pramana and Smriti Pramana. So Itihas, Puranas, everything will be under the Smriti Purana stage, Smriti category. So Shruti stage is what is very important, that he took this one also, so that it will cover all the portions of the society. Okay, so because Isopanishad is accepted across the Dargavadis. Dargavadi means the logical philosophers and conclusive decision makers, everybody. So that is why he took this to make a very clear point that there is the Bhagavan realization that is more top, and worship to that particular person is the topmost compared to anything, because most of the Shruti Pramanas will focus only if somebody is taking the Bhashyams or commentaries of it, and just only focus only at the Brahman stage or at the Paramatma stage. So, but he wanted to break that, and that is why he gave this commentary on Isopanishad. Okay, so tomorrow if somebody is asking why Isopanishad, yes, Isopanishad falls under the category of the Shruti Pramanam, but within the Shruti Pramanam also, everything is focusing on the Bhagavan realization.
The question, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
This 12th verse, how do we take it from a preaching perspective actually? Because I think it talks about that worshipping the demigods is the darkest ignorance and those kind of things. I don't know how.
Even Bhagavad Gita also the same thing. When he says Yanti Devo Prideva, so which means what? Whomsoever worshipping which god, they will go to that particular statue. So factually, that is the truth. So if they are worshipping devatas, they will be worshipping that particular loka only. So from a preaching perspective, we need to put it very nicely that whatever you are doing is good, but there is beyond this thing also, there is another or a better one that is much more, that will give you much more happiness, is the Bhagavan realization or the worshipping the Supreme Lord. That portion we can always say. We can always refer this sloka with the Bhagavad Gita sloka. If somebody is asked, mostly 90% they will accept Bhagavad Gita, but they will not be able to accept the very specific portion of Bhagavad Gita. So we can always compare that and this particular 11th sloka with Yanti Deva Prideva sloka also, and say whomsoever worshipping, because Bhagavad Gita is encompassing all the society, all the peoples of the society. See, if somebody wants to become a yogi, you can become a yogi. Somebody wants to become a karmi, you can become a karmi. Somebody wants to become a jnani, you can become a karmi. So Bhagavad Gita doesn't differentiate or doesn't discriminate between this one. It wants everybody, but ultimately everybody's goal should be bhakti yoga. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita gives that portion also, but somebody wants only that particular portion of dhyana yoga. You want to become a yogi, okay, at least become a yogi. So you want to become a jnani, okay, at least become a jnani. Instead of becoming an atheist, instead of becoming a pashandi, at least become that. So in that way we can preach that, and say from an Isopanishad's goal is always that one. So this is how it is being defined.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Again, this 16th sloka. Okay, anybody quickly? So today we'll try to complete 4 slokas. Okay, 16, 17, 18. I need your cooperation. So please start reading it and let's complete it. It is all about prayers to that Paramapurusha Bhagavan. Okay, thank you. Oshan ekarcha yamasurya prajapya yuha rasmin samuha tejo yatte rupam kalyana tamam tatte pashyami yojva asau purusha soham asmi. Okay. Translation.
Hare Krishna. O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal, supreme personality of Godhead, like unto the sun, SMI. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The sun and its rays are one and the same qualitatively. Similarly, the Lord and the living entities are one and the same in quality. The sun is one, but the molecules of the sun's rays are innumerable. The sun's rays constitute part of the sun, and the sun and its rays conjointly constitute the complete sun. Within the sun itself resides the sun god, and similarly within the supreme spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavana, from which the Brahmajyoti effulgence is emanating. The Lord enjoys his eternal pastimes, as verified in the Brahma Samhita 529. Chintamani prakara satma sukalpa vriksha laksha britesh surabira bipalayantam Lakshmi sahasra shata sambhrama sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, fulfilling all desires, in abodes filled with spiritual gems and surrounded by millions of wish-fulfilling trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or goddesses of fortune. The Brahmajyoti is described in the Brahma Samhita as the rays emanating from that supreme spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavana, just as the sun's rays emanate from the sun globe. Until one surpasses the glare of the Brahmajyoti, one cannot receive information of the land of the Lord. The impersonalist philosophers, blinded as they are by the dazzling Brahmajyoti, can realize neither the factual abode of the Lord nor his transcendental form. Limited by their poor fund of knowledge, such impersonalist thinkers cannot understand the all-blissful transcendental form of Lord Krishna. In this prayer, therefore, Sri Isopanishad petitions the Lord to remove the effulgent rays of the Brahmajyoti so that the pure devotee can see his all-blissful transcendental form. By realizing the impersonal Brahmajyoti, one experiences the auspicious aspects of the Supreme, and by realizing the Paramatma, or all-pervading feature of the Supreme, one experiences an even more auspicious enlightenment. But by meeting the personality of Godhead himself face to face, the devotee experiences the most auspicious feature of the Supreme. Since he is addressed as a primeval philosopher and maintainer and well-wisher of the universe, the Supreme Truth cannot be impersonal. This is the verdict of Sri Isopanishad. The word Pushan, maintainer, is especially significant, for although the Lord maintains all beings, he specifically maintains his devotees. After surpassing the impersonal Brahmajyoti and seeing the personal aspect of the Lord and his most auspicious eternal form, the devotee realizes absolute truth in full. In the Bhagavad Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami states, the complete conception of the absolute truth is realized in the personality of Godhead because he is almighty and possesses full transcendental potencies. The full potency of the absolute truth is not realized in the Brahmajyoti. Therefore, Brahman realization is only partial realization of the personality of Godhead. O learned sages, the first syllable of the word Bhagavan, Ba, has two meanings. The first is one who fully maintains, and the second is guardian. The second syllable, Ga, means guide, leader, or creator. The syllable Van indicates that every living being lives in him, and that he also lives in every being. In other words, the transcendental sound Bhagavan represents infinite knowledge, potency, energy, opulence, strength, and influence, all without a tinge of material inebriety. The Lord fully maintains his unalloyed devotees, and he guides them progressively on the path toward devotional perfection. As the leader of his devotees, he ultimately awards the desired results of devotional service by giving himself to them. The devotees of the Lord see the Lord eye to eye by his causeless mercy. Thus, the Lord helps his devotees reach the supermost spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavana. Being the creator, he can bestow all necessary qualifications upon his devotees so that they can ultimately reach him. The Lord is the cause of all causes. In other words, since there is nothing that caused him, he is the original cause. Consequently, he enjoys his own self by manifesting his own internal potency. The external potency is not exactly manifested by him, for he expends himself as the Purushas. And it is in these forms that he maintains the features of the material manifestation. By such expansions, he creates, maintains, and annihilates the cosmic manifestation. The living entities are also differentiated expansions of the Lord's self, and because some of them desire to be lords and imitate the Supreme Lord, he allows them to enter into the cosmic creation with the option to fully utilize their propensity to lord it over nature. Because of the presence of his parts and parcels, the living entities, the entire phenomenal world is stirred into action and reaction. Thus, the living entities are given full facilities to lord it over material nature, but the ultimate controller is the Lord himself in his plenary feature as Paramatma, the super soul, who is one of the Purushas. Thus, there is a gulf of difference between the living entity Atma and the controlling Lord Paramatma, the soul and the super soul. Paramatma is the controller and the Atma is the controlled. Therefore, they are in different categories. Because the Paramatma fully cooperates with the Atma, he is known as the constant companion of the living being. The all-pervading feature of the Lord, which exists in all circumstances of waking and sleeping, as well as in potential states, and from which the Jiva Shakti, living force, is generated as both conditioned and liberated souls, is known as Brahman. Since the Lord is the origin of both the Paramatma and Brahman, he is the origin of all living entities and all else that exists. One who knows this engages himself at once in the devotional service of the Lord. Such a pure and fully cognizant devotee of the Lord is fully attached to him in heart and soul, and whenever such a devotee assembles with similar devotees, they have no engagement but the glorification of the Lord's transcendental activities. Those who are not as perfect as the pure devotees, namely those who have realized only the Brahman or Paramatma features of the Lord, cannot appreciate the activities of the perfect devotees. The Lord always helps the pure devotees by imparting necessary knowledge within their hearts, and thus out of his special favor, he dissipates all the darkness of ignorance. The speculative philosophers and yogis cannot imagine this because they more or less depend on their own strength. As stated in the Katha Upanishad 1-23, the Lord can be known only by those whom he favors, and not by anyone else. Such special favors are bestowed upon his pure devotees only. Sri Isopanishad thus points to the favor of the Lord, which is beyond the purview of the Brahmajyoti.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. Very short sloka, but importantly, the main points covered. Importance giving to the personality of Godhead feature, focusing on the features by which we are able to realize the Lord in his portions. Talking about different entities, talking about living entity. As Jivatma, we are also having that little freedom, and then as we are also small Ishwaras, we could try to control over the material world because we are also part and parcel of the Lord. And just because we forgot our eternal position, we are trying to be here. Okay, so I think those questions are very nicely covered. Those who are not perfect, not as perfect as the pure devotees, namely who have realized only the Brahman or Paramatma features of the Lord, cannot appreciate the activities of perfect devotees. Again, very importantly. But before this is very nice point from the first section. Yeah, the sun rays and the sun's rays are one, and qualitatively are the same. Okay. So Chintamani, I worship the Lord. So one realization that I want to see is see if somebody has visited Tirupati, okay. We would have visited Tirupati many years, right? So either by walking, somebody would have done some walking, somebody would have got direct VVIP darshan also, somebody would have got normal darshan, means they wait for 2 days, somebody would have waited for 2.5 hours, whatever be it. This is again my personal realization. So everybody will be standing in the queue. So somebody will be running from one cage to another cage, and finally the moment comes, you go through all the queues. Okay, finally before you enter, just one praharam, like before you enter the main praharam, there is a section which your feet will be completely washed. It automatically the water will be flowing, and you might realize that from that moment, something will start triggering. I mean, at least this is my realization, that you want to somehow see the form of the Lord. Till that moment, you will be discussing something, you will be focusing on something, you will be chanting. So many things will happen when Jaraganti, when the Govinda, everything will happen. But just 2 minutes or 3 minutes before that final cue, everybody's focus will be just to have that particular darshan of the Lord. Okay, just seeing the lotus feet of the Lord, beautiful alankaram, beautiful face, his features, then his namam, they call the tilak portion, then his crown. So every time when we have the notes, this butterfly will start. Oh, somehow we have to see the last. So we have been waiting for 1 hour, 2 hours, or even one day. Sometimes when I go with my college friends, we just go into the normal dharma, which means like it will take 8 hours, 6 hours. We don't bother. But last moment to have the darshan of the personal form or the feature of the Lord, we'll have that urge, right? So the moment you go there, what happens? You just start seeing, and you start observing his wonderful form. That's all. They'll say Jaragandi, and within that, you will be pushed out automatically. There's nothing you have to do. Just keep. So what they will say by experience, somebody will say, you go into the middle queue. There will be three queues in the last moment. Okay, to see the personal, beautiful Balaji form. So they'll say, go in the middle one so that you can go slowly. If you go in the first line, they will push you immediately. Last line also. So if you go to the middle line is where you can have the straight darshan, and you will have a longer queue also, and you can have. So many times I would plan, okay, let me be there in the middle queue. So whenever we are in the middle queue, sometimes it will take some more time to have that personal darshan of the Lord. So moment that is over, that's all. So you try to recollect, you try to see, but that happiness, that anandam, that bliss that comes out of seeing that personal form of the Lord is completely like, kind of mission accomplished, kind of so much of happiness. After that, you get the laddu, after that, you're walking, all those things are all secondary portion of it. So why I'm just saying is the importance of having the darshan of the personal form of the Lord is so nice. Okay. Even if you go to Vrindavan, whenever you try to see Mangalarti Darshan, or whenever you go to Radhe Banga Bihari, you have that Janak Darshan, or whenever you go to take darshan of Radha Raman. If you go in the winter season, Radha Raman will be like, kind of little away. Okay, he will never. But during summertime, if you go, they will keep Radha Raman ji in the little front. Okay, so that you can have a very quick darshan, like a very intimate darshan. So like that, if you feel that bliss, then you are on the right path. Okay, so that we know that why Prabhupada wanted to give the importance of having that the personal form or the physical form darshan is so powerful, because that only gives the complete happiness, that only gives that complete anandam, and that is only will take us in the next level of relationship with our Lord. Okay. This you might have realized even when we go for Puri Jagannath also. Sometimes Jagannath, they will just keep pushing you here and there, and then you just the moment you see the Lord, then you'll be sick, so much happy, right? So many times we go around 11 o'clock in the night, sometimes we go 4 o'clock in the morning. So somehow or other we want to have that particular darshan. Why? It is because the complete happiness relies only at the having that darshan of the Lord. Okay. Yes, Ajay Prabhu.
Thank
Yes,
you,
Prabhu,
Prabhuji,
just
for
one more.
giving us darshan of Tirupati today.
Okay.
Just wanted to thank you. Earlier, you had made us, go to the Vrindavan also and see various dhams. And
Many of
this
them,
visit
yeah.
this visit, we were able to do that actually, with your eyes, the way you made us, roam around in Vrindavan. So thank you for giving us this darshan of Tirupati today. I've never been to Tirupati, but I think
You pray,
I
Prabhu,
saw Tirupati.
you pray that one day you will have that darshan. Why so much of this one? Yeah, Ajay Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, just one more. Just continuing with your realization, because Tirupati, the moment we enter, we see Balaji and Nama, and when we come out, the moment we are out of that side, the the separation feeling is way too high, and that becomes extremely high the moment we start walking away. And that time, as you said, from the time when your feet get washed, from that time it is completely, everything goes away automatically. You're not feeling that where are you, how are you. It's only that connection to be made, and that time looks way too big when we are standing in front, and the moment we are just pushed out, that looks like, oh my God, it's all gone.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'll give you another pastime also. Now, recently, last year, 2 years back, we had in Kanchipuram, there is a specific form of the Lord called Atti Varadar. Okay, in Kanchipuram, very specific, wonderful form of the Lord is Varadaraja Perumal. Okay, Varadaraja means one who gives Varanam, one who gives best benedictions. Okay, so in that temple, there is a one pond, and within that pond, there is one deity form of the Lord in the wood form. Okay, it is like Atti Maram. Atti Maram means there's a specific tree. The form of the Lord is
Big tree, Prabhu.
yeah,
Big tree.
big tree. So recently, every 40 years only they will bring that. Okay, so the temple authorities, every 40 years they will bring that. They bring out that particular form of the Lord. They'll keep it out for 40 days only. Okay, that too again 40 days, or exactly 40 days. And within that 40 days, the same form of the Lord in the standing posture, and then the next 20 days, the first 20 days in the Shaina posture, and then the next 20 days in the standing posture. So lakhs and lakhs of people came for that, just having that darshan. Even ISKCON devotees across the globe, I know so many of the devotees came from Delhi. So many devotees came from. So even Maharaj came. Okay, I still remember we took Jayapad Maharaj, then we took Pankajangri Prabhu, then we took so many wonderful ISKCON devotees. All is because to have that wonderful darshan of the form of that beautiful form of Atti Varadar. Why I'm saying is, in Kanchipuram, there the Varadaraja Perumal temple is there, so many things are there. But that is why so special. He comes out only every 40 years. So in that queue, no, when I took a lot of devotees, ISKCON devotees many times. So 3-4 times I had opportunity to take darshan. So one person came, he was 80 years old. Okay, he was realizing that this is the third time I'm seeing, which means what, he would have seen it in his young age. Then around his 40 years, he would have seen. Then this is the third time. Then he's saying, I will not be able to see the next time. Then I was thinking myself, I'm seeing what the first time. I don't know whether I'll be able to see the second time. And somebody who is at the age of 60, 17, that's all. Somebody who's at the age of 30, they can pray that, okay, they'll get an opportunity to see after 40 years. So he was realizing that no, earlier 40 years back, there was this much of crowd was not there, and he was able to see the darshan so nicely. No big elaborate arrangements and all. He was just brought out. He was kept in that mandapam, and then everybody were able to have free darshan. But within the 40, he's saying now realizing within 40 years now I'm seeing per day 1 lakh, more than 1 lakh people. So around that 40 days, around 50 lakh, 60 lakh people came to have the darshan. So he was mentioning, I'm getting old, but at least I'm happy that I had that darshan in my third darshan. So we can see the devotion portion, and also we can see why so much of importance is given to that the form of the Lord. Okay. Okay, let's go to last 2 slokas, quickly finish it. Okay, 17 and
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
yeah, Mataji, go ahead.
Vayur anilam amritam athedam bhasmantam shariram om karto smara kritam smara karto smara kritam smara. Translation: let this temporary body be burned to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. Purport. And the temporary material body is certainly a foreign dress. The Bhagavad Gita 2.20 clearly says that after the destruction of the material body, the living entity is not annihilated, nor does he lose his identity. The identity of the living entity is never impersonal or formless. On the contrary, it is the material dress that is formless and takes shapes according to the form of the indestructible person. No living entity is originally formless, as is wrongly thought by those with a poor fund of knowledge. This mantra verifies the fact that living entity exists after annihilation of the material body. In the material world, material nature displays wonderful workmanship by creating varieties of body for living beings according to their propensities for sense gratification. The living entity who wants to taste stool is given a material body that is quite suitable for eating stool, that of a hog. Similarly, one who wants to eat the flesh and blood of other animals may be given a tiger's body equipped with suitable teeth and claws. But the human being is not meant for eating flesh, nor does he have any desire to taste stool. Even in the most aboriginal state, human teeth are so made that they can chew and cut fruit and vegetables, although there are 2 canine teeth, so that primitive humans can eat flesh if they so desire. But in any case, the material body of all animals and men are foreign to the living entity. They change according to the living entity's desire for sense gratification. In the cycle of evolution, the living entity changes bodies one after the another. When the world was full of water, the living entity took an aquatic form. Then he passed to vegetable life, from vegetable life to worm life, from worm life to bird life, from bird life to animal life, and from animal life to the human form. The highest developed form is this human form when it is possessed of a full sense of spiritual knowledge. The highest development of one's spiritual sense is described in this mantra. One should give up the material body, which will be turned to ashes, and allow the air of life to merge into the eternal reservoir of air. The living being's activities are performed within the body through the movements of different kinds of air, known in summary as pranavayu. The yogis generally study how to control the airs of the body. The soul is supposed to rise from one circle of air to another until it rises to the Brahma Brahmandra, the highest circle. From that point, the perfect yogi can transfer himself to any planet he likes. The process is to give up one's material body and then enter into another. But the highest perfection of such changes occur only when the living entity is able to give up the material body altogether, as suggested in this mantra, and enter into the spiritual atmosphere where he can develop a completely different type of body, a spiritual body which never has to meet death or change. Here in the material world, material nature forces the living entity to change his body due to different desires for sense gratification. These desires are represented in the various species of life, from germs to the most perfected material bodies, those of Brahma and the demigods. All of these living entities have bodies composed of matter in different shapes. The intelligent man sees oneness not in the variety of the bodies, but in the spiritual identity. The spiritual spark, which is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is the same whether he is in the body of a hog or in the body of a demigod. The living entity takes on different bodies according to his pious and vicious activities. The human body is highly developed and has full consciousness. According to the Bhagavad Gita 7.19, the most perfect man surrenders unto the Lord after many lifetimes of culturing knowledge. The culture of knowledge reaches perfection only when the knower comes to the point of surrendering unto the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Otherwise, even after attaining knowledge of one's spiritual identity, if one does not come to the point of knowing that the living entities are eternal parts and parcels of the whole and can never become the whole, one has to fall down again into the material atmosphere. Indeed, one must fall down even if he has become one with the Brahma Jyotir. As we've learned from previous mantras, the Brahma Jyotir emanating from the transcendental body of the Lord is full of spiritual sparks that are individual entities with the full sense of existence. Sometimes these living entities want to enjoy their senses and therefore they are placed in the material world to become false lords under the dictation of the senses. The desire for lordship is the material disease of the living being. For under the spell of sense enjoyment, he transmigrates through the various bodies manifested in the material world. Becoming one with the Brahma Jyotir does not represent mature knowledge. Only by surrendering unto the Lord completely and devoting one's sense of spiritual service does one reach the highest perfectional stage. In this mantra, the living entity prays to enter the spiritual kingdom of God after relinquishing his material body and material air. The devotee prays to the Lord to remember his activities and the sacrifices he has performed before his material body turns into ashes. He makes this prayer at the time of death with full consciousness of his past deeds and of the ultimate goal. One who is completely under the rule of material nature remembers the heinous activities he performed during the existence of his material body, and consequently he gets another material body after death. The Bhagavad Gita 8.6 confirms this truth. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajate ante kale varam tam tam evati konteya sada tadbhava bhavata. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Thus the mind carries the living entity's propensities into the next life. Unlike the simple animals who have no developed mind, the dying human being can remember the activities of his life like dreams at night. Therefore, his mind remains surcharged with material desires, and consequently, he cannot enter into the spiritual kingdom with a spiritual body. The devotees, however, develop a sense of love for Godhead by practicing devotional service to the Lord. Even if at the time of death a devotee does not remember his service to the Lord does not forget him. This prayer is given to remind the Lord of the devotee's sacrifices, but even if there is no such reminder, the Lord does not forget the service rendered by his pure devotee. The Lord clearly describes his intimate relationship with his devotees in the Bhagavad Gita 9.30 to 34. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, as well as Shudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination. How much more this is so of the righteous Brahmanas, the devotee and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in the loving service unto me, engage your mind always in thinking of me, becoming my devotee, offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura explains these verses in this way. One should regard a devotee of Krishna to be on the right path of the saints, even though such a devotee may seem to be Shudrachara, a person of loose character. One should try to understand the real purport of the word, Sudurachara. A conditioned soul has to act for double functions, namely the maintenance of the body and again for self-realization. Social status, mental development, cleanliness, austerity, nourishment, and the struggle for existence are all for the maintenance of the body. The self-realization part of one's activities is executed to one's occupation as a devotee of the Lord, and one performs actions in that connection also. One must perform these two different functions along parallel lines because a conditioned soul cannot give up the maintenance of his body. The proportion of activities for maintenance of the body decreases, however, in proportion to the increase in devotional service. As long as the proportion of the devotional service does not come to the right point, there is a chance for an occasional exhibition of worldliness. But it should be noted that such worldliness cannot continue for long because by the grace of the Lord, such imperfections will come to an end very shortly. And therefore, the path of devotional service is the only right path. If one is on the right path, even an occasional occurrence of worldliness does not hamper one in the advancement of self-realization. The facilities of devotional service are denied the impersonalist because they are attached to the Brahma Jyotir feature of the Lord. As suggested in the previous mantras, they cannot penetrate the Brahma Jyotir because they do not believe in the personality of Godhead. Their business is mostly word jugglery and mental speculation. Consequently, the impersonalists pursue a fruitless labor as confirmed in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 12.5. All the facilities suggested in this mantra can be easily obtained by constant contact with the personal feature of the Absolute Truth. Devotional service to the Lord consists essentially of 9 transcendental activities: hearing about the Lord, glorifying the Lord, 3 remembering the Lord, 4 serving the lotus feet of the Lord, 5 worshipping the Lord, 6 offering prayers to the Lord, 7 serving the Lord, 8 enjoying friendly association with the Lord, and 9 surrendering everything unto the Lord. These 9 principles of devotional service, taken all together or one by one, help a devotee remain constantly in touch with the God. In this way, at the end of life, it is easy for the devotee to remember the Lord. By adopting only one of these 9 principles, the following renowned devotees of the Lord were able to achieve the highest perfection. 1. By hearing of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, the hero of Srimad Bhagavatam, attained the desired result. 2. Just by glorifying the Lord, Sukadeva Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, attained his perfection. 3. By praying to the Lord, Akura attained the desired result. 4. By remembering the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj attained the desired result. 5. By worshipping the Lord, Prithu Maharaj attained perfection. 6. By serving the lotus feet of the Lord, the goddess of fortune Lakshmi attained perfection. 7. By rendering personal service to the Lord, Hanuman attained the desired result. 8. Through his friendship with the Lord, Arjuna attained the desired result. 9. By surrendering everything he had to the Lord, Maharaja Bali attained the desired result. Actually, The explanation of this mantra and of practically all the mantras of the Vedic hymns is summarized in the Vedanta Sutra and properly explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of the Vedic tree of wisdom. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this particular mantra is explained in the questions and answers between Maharaja Parikshit and Sukadev Goswami at the beginning of their meeting. Hearing and chanting of the signs of God is the basic principle of devotional service. The complete Bhagavatam was heard by Maharaja Parikshit and chanted by Sukadeva Goswami. Maharaja Parikshit inquired from Sukadeva because Sukadeva was a great spiritual master that any great yogi or transcendentalist of his time. Maharaja Parikshit's main question was, what is the duty of every man, specifically at the time of death? Sukadeva Goswami answered, Tasmad Bharata Shratama Bhagwan Ishwaro Hari Shrotpaya Kritivasya cha Smartavyasya Chetabhyam. Everyone who desires to be free from all anxieties should always hear about, glorify, and remember the personality of Godhead, who is the supreme director of everything, the extinguisher of all difficulties, and the super soul of all living entities. Bhagavatam 2.1.5. So-called human society is generally engaged at night in sleeping and having sex, and during the daytime in earning as much money as possible, or else in shopping for family maintenance. People have very little time to talk about the personality of Godhead or to inquire about him. They have dismissed God's existence in so many ways, primarily by declaring him to be impersonal, that is, without sense perception. But in the Vedic literature, whether the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, or Srimad Bhagavatam, it is declared that the Lord is a sentient being and is supreme over all other living entities. His glorious activities are identical within himself. One should therefore not indulge in hearing and speaking of the rubbish activities of the worldly politicians and so-called big men in society, but should mold his life in such a way that he can engage in godly activities without wasting a second. Sri Isopanishad directs us towards such godly activities. Unless one is accustomed to devotional practice, what will he remember at the time of death when the body is dislocated, and how can he pray to the Almighty Lord to remember his sacrifices? Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. One has to learn this art by employing the senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. One can utilize the results of such practice at the time of death.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishwara hi Shrotavyascha Kritavyascha Smratavyascha Chetabhyam. This sloka is very nice sloka. Like somebody, because Parishit Maharaj's specific question, like what is the duty of every man? One point. Second point is specifically at the time of death. And then Sukadeva Goswami is answering, everyone who desires to free mind should just hear Bhagavan Ishwara he what? Shrotavyascha Kirtivyascha Smratavyascha. Just hear and then listen. Just listen and then glorify the Supreme Lord. That's all. So nice sloka. Okay. The main sloka's content is what? Let this temporary body be burnt. So I want to come out of this material body, material identification, and let myself in one way. If you see, let the air of my life be merged with totality of it. This is like more of asking for which kind of mukti? Let air of my life. So it is asking for a Sayuja Mukti, or where Mukti in which I want to go merge with the Supreme, with the Supreme Lord. Okay, so there are different, but most importantly, what is the ultimate point is, oh Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate memory, remember that I have done for you. Which means that the prayer is in such a way that Smarak Kritam, Smarak Krato. Okay, Krato means he is the ultimate. This one, Smara Kritam Smara. So many times it is asking like, no, please write. So Prabhupada is making, you don't have to worry about that remembrance portion. Krishna will definitely remember whatever we have done. Okay, Swalpa Mavamsyatrayato Mahatavbhaya. So even if you do small endeavor, it is okay. Okay, so this is how this particular portion ends. We'll go to the last sloka and then try to complete. He's also bringing out this yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tejate anta kalam, this sloka also. At the moment of death, if somebody is able to remember the Supreme Lord, definitely he will be able to sadatat bhava bhavita. He will be definitely able to get the better. Last sloka will finish.
Prabhuji, this line which was about merging into the totality of air, was it not like ekatvam?
Yeah, ekatam also we can say. In whatever sense we can say.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, can I read this sloka?
Okay, go ahead.
Who the sloka?
Sloka, you want to read or the translation purpose?
I'll read the sloka first.
Okay, good.
Agne naya supatare Agne naya supatare Rayasman Vishwani Deva Vayuna Ani Vidwan Yuyodyasmat Juhurana Meno Bhuyishtamete Nama Uktim Videma. Translation by Swan Gases Bhakti Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Oh my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances, falling on the ground at your lotus feet. Oh my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins, so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. Purport by NGSS Swami Prabhupada ki jai. By surrendering unto the Lord and praying for His causeless mercy, the devotee can progress on the path of self-realization, complete self-realization. The Lord is addressed as fire because He can burn anything into ashes, including the sins of the surrendered soul. As described in the previous mantras, the real or ultimate aspect of the Absolute is His feature as the personality of Godhead, and His impersonal Brahmajyoti feature is a dazzling covering over his face. Fruitive activities or the karma kanda path of self-realization is the lowest stage in this endeavor. As soon as such activities even slightly deviate from the regulative principles of the Vedas, they are transformed into vikarma or acts against the interest of the actor. Such vikarma is enacted by the illusioned living entity simply for the sense gratification. And thus such activities become hindrances on the path of self-realization. Prabhu,
Go ahead.
I have a question, Prabhu. What is hindrance?
Hindrance is nothing but obstacles or troubles that will be difficult for you to go into the actual realization.
Self-realization is
Yes.
possible in the human form of life, but not in other forms. There are 8,400,000 species, 8,400,000 species of or forms of life, which the human form qualified by Brahminical culture presents the only chance to obtain knowledge of transcendence. Brahminical culture includes truthfulness, sense control, forbearance, simplicity, full knowledge, and full faith in God. It is not that one simply becomes proud of his high parentage. Just as being born the son of a big man who affords one a chance to become a big man. So being born the son of a Brahmana gives one a chance to become a Brahmana. But such birthright is not everything, for one still has to attain the Brahminical qualifications for oneself. As soon as one becomes proud of his birth as the son of a Brahmana and neglects to acquire the qualification of a real Brahmana, he at once becomes degraded and falls from the path of self-realization. Thus, his life's mission as a human being is being defeated. As a human being is defeated. In the Bhagavad Gita 6.41 to 6.42, we are assured by the Lord that the yoga brastas or souls fallen from the path of self-realization are given a chance to rectify themselves by taking birth either in the families of good brahmanas or in the families of rich merchants. Such births afford higher chances for self-realization. If these chances are misused due to illusion, one loses the good opportunity of human life afforded by the Almighty Lord. The regulative principles are such that one who follows is promoted from the platform of fruitive activities to the platform of transcendental knowledge. After many lifetimes of cultivating transcendental knowledge, one becomes perfect, then he surrenders unto the Lord. This is the general procedure, but one who surrenders at the very beginning, as recommended in this mantra, at once surpasses all preliminary stages simply by adopting the devotional attitude. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 18.66, the Lord at once takes charge of such a surrendered soul and frees him from all the reactions to his sinful acts. There are many sinful reactions involved in karma kanda activities, whereas in Jnana Kanda, the path of philosophical development, the number of such sinful activities is smaller. But in devotional service to the Lord, the path of Bhakti is practically no chance of incurring sinful reactions. Because a devotee of the Lord attains all the qualifications of the Lord Himself. What to speak of those of a Brahmana? A devotee automatically attains the qualifications of an expert Brahmana, authorized to perform sacrifices, even though the devotee might not have taken his birth in a Brahmana family. Such is the omnipotence of the Lord. He can make a man born in a Brahmana family as degraded as a low-born dog eater, and he can also make a low-born dog eater superior to a qualified Brahmana simply on the strength of devotional service. Since the omnipotent Lord situated within the heart of everyone, he can give directions to his sincere devotees by which they can attain the right path. Such directions are especially offered to the devotee, even if he desires something else. As far as others are concerned, the God gives sanction to the doer only at the risk of the doer. But in case of for a devotee, the Lord directs him in such a way that he never acts wrongly. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.42 says, Swapadamulam bhajata priyasya jaktanya bhavasya paresha vikarmayacho patita katanche dunoti sarvam hridi sannivishta. The Lord is so kind to the devotee who is fully surrendered to his lotus feet that even though the devotee sometimes falls into entanglement of vikarma, acts against the Vedic direction, the Lord at once rectifies such mistakes from within his heart. This is because the devotees are very dear to the Lord. In this mantra of Sri Isopanishad, the devotee prays to the Lord to rectify him from the within his heart. To err human, to err is human. A conditioned soul is very often apt to commit mistakes, and the only remedial measure to take against such unintentional sins is to give oneself up to the lotus feet of the Lord, so that He may guide one to avoid such pitfalls. The Lord takes charge of fully surrendered souls. Thus, all problems are solved simply by surrendering oneself unto the Lord and acting uh, in terms of His direction. Such directions are given to the sincere devotee in two ways. One is by the way of saints, scriptures and spiritual master. The other way is by the way of the Lord Himself, who resides within the heart of everyone. Thus, the devotee fully enlightened with Vedic knowledge is protected in all respects.
Vedic knowledge is transcendental and cannot be understood by
Finish it, Madhu. Anybody?
cannot be understood by mundane educational procedures. One can understand the Vedic mantras only by the grace of the Lord and the spiritual master. Yasya deva para bhaktir yata deva tata guru. If one takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, it is to be understood that he has obtained the grace of the Lord. The Lord appears as the spiritual master for the devotee. Thus, the spiritual master, the Vedic injunctions, and the Lord Himself from within all guide the devotee in full strength. In this way, there is no chance for a devotee to fall again into the mire of material illusion. The devotee, thus protected all around, is sure to reach the ultimate destination of perfection. The entire process is hinted at in this mantra, and Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, 17 to 20, explains it further. Hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord is itself an act of piety. The Lord wants everyone to hear and chant His glories because He is the well-wisher of all living entities. By hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, one becomes cleansed of all undesirable things. And then one's devotion becomes fixed upon the Lord. At this stage, the devotee acquires the Brahmanical qualification, and the effects of the lower modes of nature, passion, and ignorance completely vanish. The devotee becomes fully enlightened by virtue of his devotional service, and thus he comes to know the path of the Lord and the way to attain Him. As all doubts diminish, he becomes a pure devotee. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Isopanishad, the knowledge that brings one nearer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Motherji. Thank you. Thank you very much for being very patient on a Sunday afternoon. This last line is very important. So what is the ultimate aim of Isopanishad is the knowledge that brings one nearer to the personality of Godhead. Okay. So the knowledge by which we are able to realize that Bhagavan and then worship that Bhagavan feature. So let's quickly summarize one particular section of how do we see each of the slokas in one liner. Okay, I'll just try to. Okay, this is all about Prabhupada giving that concluding quote. The devotee becomes fully enlightened by virtue of his devotion service, and thus he comes to know the path of the Lord, and all the way to attain Him, as all his doubts diminish, he becomes a pure devotee. So hearing and chanting of the Lord. Start put it in a different way. So quickly, side by side, 18 slokas, we'll just try to summarize how do we understand. Okay. So Isopanishad is nothing but knowledge that brings one closer to the Supreme Lord. Okay. So invocation is all about Purnam. Okay, Purnam means absolute and complete. Okay. Then the mantra 1 is all about Ishavasya. Or what is that? He is the complete proprietor or the owner or the proprietor. Okay. Everything belongs to him. This is that understanding. Okay. So we should accept what gives us. So first one. Okay. Then the second sloka. Karma. Okay. The karma portion where he has to be bound or binded by the laws of karma, laws of nature, laws of karma, we can say. So he has to be bounded, like because he is in the material world, he has to be binded, that particular Jivatma has to work towards that particular nature's way. Okay? Then understanding about, third sloka is about understanding of the Jivatma or the soul. So we should understand the killer of the soul, whomsoever he may be, must enter in darkness. So he must make sure that he is the Jivatma and not about the body. So focusing on the sense gratification. So ensuring, focusing on getting out of. This is third one. Fourth sloka is all about fixing the mind on the Supreme Person of body. Okay. So and then he suppresses, because he is the mind fixing the mind on the understanding about the Supreme Lord, that he is all powerful, he is very fast, he is
Inconceivable.
yeah, inconceivable. Is again about his absolute, right now, server, yeah. He is part and parcel of the world. Like now he's sorry, living entities are part and parcel.
The Dvaitam.
Yeah, correct. There's also 6 also same part and parcel. So seeing the Lord presence and hand everywhere. More from Bhagavad Gita perspective, 7th chapter and 8th chapter.
Samadarshanaha.
Yeah, correct. Samadarshanaha. And this is all Samadarshana. 7th is all about Samadarshana. Okay? All living entities are his parts. So we are all his part and parcel of him. Okay, we are all his portion. Mantra 8, such a person may factually be embodied. So about again same, he is the greatest. And the smallest of the smallest, greatest of the greatest. He is very near and very far. All those things. So cultivation of knowledge portion. So this portion is about the Supreme Lord. This 4th to 8th is about the Lord. This is one section. And then from this section is all about cultivation of knowledge. From 9th, knowledge, understanding, ignorance, avidya and vidya. Tenth also same, culture of knowledge or importance of understanding the knowledge. Knowledge of everything. Okay, knowledge of whom, knowledge of myself, knowledge about the Lord, knowledge about everything. So having this knowledge will transcend or transcend the Janma Mrityu, transcend the birth and death, or the benefit of having the knowledge. Why should we have that knowledge? Is mostly. And 12th is about demigod worship. Why one should not worship the devatas or the impersonal feature. 13. Again, same. 13 is also importance of worshipping Supreme Lord, Supreme Bhagavan, or the personal feature of the Lord. So 14 is about knowledge about his personal form, his name, qualities, rupa, guna, all those things. Okay. Leela. And what is the benefit? What is the benefit is coming out of the material world and enjoy eternal bliss. This is a gradual progression from motion. So this is all about knowledge section. So 9 to almost 9 to 15, finally ending where somebody getting that perfect knowledge will be more blissful, and then having that knowledge with this about his personal. 15 onwards, prayers. Want to see the personal form of life. Removal. Okay. Okay. Prayers again, removal of the okay, so that he will be able to darshan of the form of the Lord. 17 also prayers requesting to come out of the material body and platform and requesting the Lord to bless, remember about this service or worship. 18 is also again prayers. Finally, full surrender. Please free me from all reactions of past sins and help in progress. Removal of hindrance. This is again the prayer section. So this is how we can see a very nice comparatively summary portion where we can see main is the Ishavashyam portion, starting with Purnatvam, this portion, and then understanding the Jivatma. If you see from a typical Bhagavad Gita perspective, you will be easily able to understand how 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is encompassed within the 18 slokas. The Bhakti Yoga portion is getting covered here. Karma portion is getting covered here. Bhagavan realization portion covered here. Knowledge or Jnana Yoga portion getting here. Why no Devata worship? All those things are also getting. We will stop here. So this is kind of one kind of a quick summary you will be able to get. Hare Krishna. Isopanishad ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananda Krishna ki jai. So let's fix the date for test and then complete Isopanishad. And then whomsoever, like some of them were mentioning about ready for the presentations. So we'll finish the presentations in the month of March. Each day, two presenters. And then by March at least or April, we should be able to March. I'm trying to target March. Let us pray. We'll try to complete. Yeah, I can paste this. That's one.
Could you get the presentations? Sorry, go ahead, Mataji. Prabhuji, can you share where will the presentation, what time, and
Yeah,
everything?
that I will share. Okay, I will share. Already I spoke with few of the devotees. They will be external examiners coming to view the presentation. So it is ideally how you present in the Gauranga Center or you present into the for the others in the teaching mode. So you have to be really thorough with 45 minutes, including question answers. Take one particular topic and present it to a larger audience. Some specific guidelines you have to follow. I will let you know once you finish this exam. We'll take up some trial run session, and then I'll run it through with you so that you be prepared. It can be only presentation or it can be without presentation also. But most importantly, you have to bring out the knowledge that you have gained in the last 1 year with sloka quotations and some realization also. And then how well you're able to articulate what Prabhupada mood and mission is, and then bring it out in a nice way that they are able to see that you've got that particular understanding. Okay, so that is the aim of that. So it provides you a platform in which you're able to, among the team members, among your student community, you will be able to share and care, one point. And the external person coming and listening also, you get a third party feedback. In that way, it'll help us or help the students for you to just ensure that you are in the Prabhupada's way. Okay.
So will it be online or will be every day it will be at Gauranga Center?
We'll have to see. I've asked few of them, like Devaki Prabhu said, he will come for specific persons. So a few of the Prabhujis, Mataji also has, for few of the Matajis, Radhika Mataji also might come. So like that, we have to see how we can. So, but not for everybody. Whomsoever is trying to bring it out. So accordingly, then that will be helpful. And share this. Okay, I think we'll stop here. You just let me know when you want to have the test, and then accordingly we can quickly finish the test also.
Prabhu, will we have any revision for the test or straight away the test?
Revision for the test.
I mean, normally all the questions, sometimes we go through and some places when we have, like actually, when I was preparing some notes, I got some doubts, or we can ask it in the group and get clarified.
Yeah, you can ask in the group. I will also try to work. I'll also see which of the questions need some specific answers. I'll also post it on the chat.
Sure.
Prabhuji, test can be after 2 weeks, maybe around 9th or 10th March.
Okay. 9th.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Also, Prabhu, possible to have a schedule like, say, maybe alphabetical order or something like that, because some of us are having some official traveling and also didn't want to clash.
Yes, Mataji. That is how we are planning. Like, but I need to find out whomsoever is ready, and accordingly we will.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Same. Test will be, I think, Isopanishad will be only one paper, Mataji, 25 marks question. Because it is only 18 chapters.
Earlier you said it's on 2nd March. So next week, what will presentations will start?
Next week, I will check with the availability of the external persons. Then accordingly, and see whomsoever is available. Then we can start also.
Yeah.
So Prabhuji, only Isopanishad test is left and presentation is left. That is
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you.